My name is Dorothy Brennan, and I am 64 years old. What I am about to tell you shattered everything I believed about love, loyalty, and the people I trusted most in this world. The day we buried my sister Carolyn was supposed to be about grief, about saying goodbye to the woman who had been my best friend for 6 decades. Instead, it became the day I discovered that her death was no accident and that the killer was standing right beside me, holding my hand. As the pastor spoke his final words over Carolyn's grave, my phone buzzed in my purse. I ignored it at first, but it buzzed again, and again. Finally, I glanced down and saw a text from an unknown number that made my blood run cold. "She didn't fall. Check the stairs. Your niece knows more than she's telling you." I looked up from my phone, my heart pounding so hard I thought everyone could hear it. My niece Amanda stood across the grave from me, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. Her husband Derek had his arm around her shoulders, his face appropriately somber. But when our eyes met, just for a second, I saw something flicker across Amanda's face, something that looked almost like fear. I typed back quickly, "Who is this?" The reply came immediately. "Someone who loved Carolyn. Someone who knows what really happened. Meet me at the old diner on Maple Street tomorrow at noon. Come alone. Trust no one in that family." The phone nearly slipped from my trembling fingers. My sister had died from a fall down the basement stairs of her own home. That is what the police said. That is what the death certificate said. Carolyn was 70 years old, after all. Old people fall. It happens. But even as I had nodded along with the explanations, something had felt wrong. Carolyn was healthy, active, sharp as a tack. She did yoga 3 times a week. She never went into that basement without turning on every single light. She was careful to a fault. Let me tell you about my sister and the life we built together. Carolyn and I grew up in a tiny house in Cedar Falls, Iowa. Our father worked at the grain elevator, and our mother took in laundry to make ends meet. We shared a bedroom until Carolyn got married at 19. I followed 2 years later. For the next 4 decades, we lived within 10 miles of each other, raising our children, burying our husbands, growing old together. Carolyn's husband Frank passed away 8 years ago. He had been a successful insurance agent, and he left her comfortable. The house was paid off, there was money in the bank, and Carolyn had her pension from 30 years of teaching elementary school. She was not rich by any means, but she was secure. I, on the other hand, struggled more after my husband Jim died. His construction business had debts I did not know about. I sold our house to pay them off and moved into a small apartment. Carolyn offered me money countless times, but I was too proud to take it. My son Michael lives in Seattle with his wife and children. We talk every Sunday, and he visits when he can, but 3,000 miles is a long way. Carolyn's daughter Patricia died in a car accident 15 years ago, leaving behind one child, Amanda. Amanda was 19 when her mother died. Carolyn took her in, raised her through college, helped her get established. When Amanda married Derek 5 years ago, Carolyn gave them the down payment for their first house. When Derek's restaurant failed 2 years later, Carolyn quietly paid off their credit cards. When they bought a bigger house in a nicer neighborhood last year, Carolyn co-signed the mortgage. Everything Carolyn had, she gave to Amanda. And Amanda took it all with grateful smiles and warm hugs that now, standing at this graveside, felt hollow and rehearsed. The reception after the funeral was held at Amanda's house. It was a beautiful home, far too beautiful for a couple where he managed a car dealership and she worked part-time at a boutique. The furniture was expensive. The kitchen was newly renovated, and there was a hot tub in the backyard. I had always wondered how they afforded it all. "Aunt Dorothy, can I get you anything?" Amanda appeared at my elbow, her face a mask of concern. "Some food? A drink?" "I'm fine, honey," I said, studying her face for any sign of the guilt I now suspected. But she looked exactly the same as always, pretty, put together, appropriately sad. "This is so hard," she said, her eyes welling up. "Grandma was everything to me. I don't know how I'm going to get through this." Grandma. Carolyn had practically raised Amanda for the second half of her life. She had sacrificed her retirement savings, her travel dreams, her peace of mind, all for this girl, who was now inheriting everything. The lawyer called this morning," Amanda continued, lowering her voice. "About the will. He wants to meet next week to go over everything." "The will?" I asked carefully. "Yes, you know Grandma left everything to me. The house, the savings, her life insurance. She told me years ago. I'm the only family she had left." That was not entirely true. I was family too. But Carolyn had told me long ago that she was leaving everything to Amanda because I had my own children to help me, and Amanda had no one else. "Of course," I said. "Carolyn loved you very much." Amanda smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. I loved her too, more than anything. That night, I lay awake in my apartment, staring at the ceiling and thinking about that text message. Who could have sent it? What did they know? And what did they mean about the stairs? The next morning, I did something I had never done before. I lied to Amanda. I told her I was not feeling well and could not come help sort through Carolyn's things. Then I drove to the old diner on Maple Street and waited. At exactly noon, a woman walked in. She was maybe 50, with graying hair and tired eyes. She looked around, spotted me in the back booth, and walked over. "Mrs. Brennan?" "Yes. Who are you?" She slid into the seat across from me. "My name is Gloria. I was Carolyn's housekeeper for the last 3 years." I remembered Gloria now. Carolyn had mentioned her, said she came twice a week to help with the heavy cleaning. But I had never met her in person. "I know things," Gloria said quietly. "Things I probably shouldn't know. Things I heard and saw in that house." "What kind of things?" Gloria looked around nervously. "Your niece and her husband. They were at the house the night Carolyn died. I know because I forgot my phone that day and came back to get it around 7. Their car was in the driveway, but all the lights were off except in the basement. I thought it was strange, but I didn't want to intrude." My heart began to race. The police said Carolyn was alone when she fell. That's what Amanda told them. She said she found her grandmother the next morning when she stopped by for coffee. "But I know what I saw, Mrs. Brennan. They were there that night." "Why didn't you tell the police?" Gloria's eyes filled with tears. "Because I was scared. Derek, he has a temper. I've seen him yell at Carolyn, demanding money, threatening her. A few weeks ago, I overheard him on the phone saying something like, 'The old lady needs to just die already so we can get what's ours.' I thought he was just being horrible. I didn't think." She couldn't finish the sentence. "Gloria," I said slowly, "are you telling me you think they killed my sister?" "I'm telling you what I saw and heard, and I'm telling you that those stairs, the ones she supposedly fell down, Carolyn asked me to help her clean them just last week. There was nothing wrong with those stairs. They were clean and dry and perfectly safe. She didn't fall on her own, Mrs. Brennan. Somebody pushed her." I spent the next week quietly investigating. I couldn't go to the police with Gloria's story alone. I needed proof. First, I went to Carolyn's house while Amanda and Derek were at work. I still had a key from years ago. I told myself I was just looking for some of Carolyn's old photos for the memorial service. The basement stairs looked completely normal, but when I examined them more closely, I noticed something odd. There were scratches on the railing, fresh ones, like someone had grabbed it hard. And at the bottom of the stairs, on the concrete floor, I could see a faint stain that had been scrubbed but not completely removed. In Carolyn's office, I found her financial records. What I discovered made me sick to my stomach. Over the past 2 years, Carolyn had given Amanda and Derek over $200,000. Cash gifts, lawn payments, credit card bills, the down payment on their house, money to keep Derek's failed restaurant afloat. There were also copies of documents I had never seen before, a second mortgage on Carolyn's house, retirement accounts that had been emptied, life insurance policies that had been increased dramatically in the past year. Amanda was the sole beneficiary of everything. I also found something else, a letter from Carolyn's doctor, dated just 3 weeks before her death. It was a referral to see a lawyer about setting up a trust. "Patient has expressed concerns about financial exploitation by family members," the doctor had written. "Recommends consultation with elder law attorney regarding asset protection." Carolyn had known. She had sensed something was wrong, and she had been trying to protect herself. but she never got the chance. The next piece of evidence came from an unexpected source. I was going through Carolyn's phone records, which I had requested from her carrier, when I noticed something strange. On the night she died, there were 3 calls to Amanda's number, between 5 and 7 in the evening. The last call had lasted 47 minutes. What had they talked about for 47 minutes, just hours before Carolyn died? I called Gloria and asked her what time exactly she had seen Amanda's car in the driveway. Around 7:15, she said. I remember because I was supposed to meet my daughter for dinner at 7:30, and I was running late. So Amanda had been on the phone with Carolyn until at least 7, then arrived at the house within 15 minutes. Whatever they had discussed, it had led directly to that visit. The visit that no one was supposed to know about. I knew I needed more than circumstantial evidence. I needed someone to talk, and I had a feeling I knew exactly who might be willing. Derek was the weak link. I had seen it at family gatherings over the years, the way he drank too much, talked too much, said things Amanda would quickly cover up with a laugh and a change of subject. He was sloppy, arrogant, and clearly thought he was smarter than everyone else. I arranged to run into him at the car dealership where he worked. I told him I was thinking about buying a new car, and could he help me? For an hour, I let him show me vehicles I had no intention of buying. I asked about his work, his life, his plans for the future. And when he seemed relaxed enough, I mentioned Carolyn. Such a tragedy, I said, shaking my head. At least Amanda is inheriting everything. That must be some comfort to you both. Something shifted in Derek's eyes. Yeah, well, Carolyn owed Amanda that much. After everything Amanda did for her, taking care of her, checking on her every day, Amanda gave up her 20s to help that woman. Carolyn was very generous, I agreed. All that money she gave you over the years. Derek's face tightened. That wasn't generosity. That was obligation. Amanda was her only family. Where else was that money going to go? I suppose you're right. How much do you think you'll get? From the house and insurance and everything? Enough, he said shortly. Enough to finally get out from under all this debt. The restaurant, the house, the credit cards. We've been drowning for years, and Carolyn just sat there in her paid-off house with her fat bank accounts, doling out money like she was doing us some huge favor, like we should be grateful for crumbs. It sounds like you resented her. Resented her? Lady, you have no idea what we went through. Every time we needed money, we had to beg. We had to listen to her lectures about responsibility and living within our means. Meanwhile, she's sitting on $500,000 in assets. $500,000. And she's making us grovel for a few thousand here and there. His voice had risen. People were starting to look. Derek seemed to realize he had said too much and forced a smile. Anyway, that's all in the past now. Amanda and I can finally start fresh. I smiled back at him, but inside, I was recording everything. The phone in my purse had been capturing every word. The meeting with the lawyer about Carolyn's will confirmed my worst suspicions. Amanda sat there with her tissues and her sad eyes while the lawyer read through the documents. Carolyn had indeed left everything to Amanda. The house worth $350,000, savings accounts totaling $180,000, and 3 life insurance policies totaling $500,000. Over $1 million in total. For a woman who had been living on a teacher's pension. There's one more thing, the lawyer said, looking uncomfortable. Your grandmother came to see me about 3 weeks before her death. She wanted to change her will. Amanda's face went pale. Change it? How? She wanted to set up a trust that would give you a monthly allowance rather than a lump sum. She also wanted to add Dorothy as a co-beneficiary for part of the estate. She said she was concerned about financial pressures you were under. She never mentioned that to me, Amanda said quickly. No, I don't suppose she would have. She seemed worried about how you might react. Unfortunately, she passed away before we could finalize the new documents, so the original will stand. I watched Amanda's face as she processed this information. For just a moment, the mask slipped. I saw relief there, pure and unmistakable. And in that moment, I knew for certain that my niece had killed my sister. But knowing and proving are two different things. I spent the next month building my case. I hired a private investigator, a retired police detective named Ray Mendez, who came highly recommended. He found things I never could have discovered on my own. Derek had been in contact with a man who had a record for insurance fraud. They had exchanged dozens of texts in the weeks leading up to Carolyn's death, texts about the plan and the payout and making it look natural. Amanda had researched accidental falls on her laptop in the weeks before Carolyn died. She had searched for things like, how do people die from falling downstairs, and signs of foul play in fall deaths, and how long does it take to die from head trauma? Both of them had alibis for the morning Carolyn was found because they had planned it that way. Amanda had called Jean Chamuimot at 8 in the morning, crying hysterically about finding her grandmother at the bottom of the basement stairs, but the medical examiner estimated that Carolyn had died sometime between 7 and 10 the night before, the night Gloria had seen their car in the driveway. Ray also discovered that Derek had significant gambling debts, far more than I had realized. He owed nearly $80,000 to some very dangerous people. They had been making threats. A month before Carolyn died, Derek had told one of his creditors that he would have the money soon because a rich relative was about to die. Everything pointed to murder. Premeditated, calculated murder for money. I took everything to the police. The detective assigned to the case, a serious woman named Lieutenant Vega, listened to my evidence with growing concern. Mrs. Brennan, I want to be honest with you. We treated this as an accidental death because there was no obvious evidence of foul play. But what you're showing me changes things significantly. So you'll investigate? We'll reopen the case immediately. I'm going to need all of this, the phone records, the financial documents, your investigators' findings, everything. 2 weeks later, I got a call from Lieutenant Vega. We've arrested Amanda Patterson and Derek Patterson for the murder of Carolyn Brennan. The medical examiner re-examined the body and found evidence of defensive wounds that were missed the first time. She didn't just fall. She struggled. Someone pushed her, and she tried to fight back. I closed my eyes, picturing my sister's final moments. The terror she must have felt, the betrayal of realizing that her own granddaughter, the girl she had loved and sacrificed for, was pushing her down those stairs. There's more, Lieutenant Vega continued. When we searched their house, we found Derek's laptop. He had deleted a lot of files, but our tech people recovered them. There were videos, Mrs. Brennan. Videos of him and Amanda discussing the murder in detail. How they would do it, when they would do it, how they would cover it up. They recorded themselves planning it like it was a business meeting. Why would anyone record something like that? Derek was paranoid about Amanda double-crossing him. He wanted evidence against her in case she tried to take all the money and leave him. Instead, he created evidence that will put them both in prison for the rest of their lives. The trial lasted 2 weeks. I sat in the courtroom every single day, watching as the prosecution laid out their case. The videos were played for the jury, showing Amanda and Derek coldly discussing how to kill a 70-year-old woman and make it look like an accident. In one video, Amanda laughed about how trusting Carolyn was. She actually thinks I love her, my niece said, rolling her eyes. All I have to do is hug her and tell her I'm grateful and she'll hand over anything, but I'm tired of waiting for her to die. At her age, she could live another 20 years. We need that money now. The prosecution also called Gloria as a witness. She testified about what she had seen the night of the murder and the things she had overheard in the months before. She cried on the stand, saying she wished she had done something sooner. I could have saved her, Gloria sobbed. If I had just told someone what I knew, Carolyn might still be alive. I wanted to comfort her, but I understood her guilt. I felt it too. I had seen the signs. I had noticed how Amanda always seemed to need money, how Derek looked at Carolyn with barely concealed contempt, how my sister had grown quieter in the months before her death. I had told myself it was just aging, just stress, just my imagination. The defense tried to argue that Carolyn's death was an accident, that Amanda and Derek had been at the house that night but had left before she fell, that the videos were just frustrated venting. But the evidence was overwhelming. The jury deliberated for only 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. First-degree murder for both of them. At the sentencing hearing, I was allowed to give a victim impact statement. I stood at the podium, looking directly at Amanda and Derek, and spoke from my heart. My sister Carolyn was the most generous, loving person I have ever known. She raised Amanda when her mother died. She gave Amanda everything she had, not because she wanted gratitude or even acknowledgement, but because she loved her. That love was repaid with betrayal and murder. You didn't just kill an old woman. You killed a grandmother who adored you, a teacher who shaped hundreds of young lives, a sister who was my best friend for 64 years. You killed her for money. And the worst part is that she would have given you anything you asked for. All you had to do was ask. But that wasn't enough for you. You wanted it all, and you wanted it now. So you pushed a 70-year-old woman down a flight of stairs and left her to die alone in the dark. I hope you think about that every day for the rest of your lives. Amanda cried throughout my statement. Derek stared at the floor. Neither of them said a word. The judge sentenced them both to life in prison without the possibility of parole. As they were led away in handcuffs, Amanda turned and looked at me one last time. I thought she might apologize, might finally show some genuine remorse. Instead, she mouthed 2 words, "Your fault." I understood then that I would never get closure from Amanda. She would never accept responsibility, never admit what she had done. In her mind, she was the victim, not my sister. But I didn't need her remorse. I had justice, I had the truth, and I had something else, Carolyn's legacy. Because her will had been executed before the new beneficiaries could be changed, the estate would have gone to Amanda. But under the law, murderers cannot profit from their crimes. The entire estate was forfeited, and as Carolyn's only surviving family member, it passed to me. I did not keep the money for myself. I used it to establish the Carolyn Brennan Foundation, which provides legal assistance and support to elderly victims of financial abuse by family members. In the 2 years since the trial, we have helped over 100 families protect vulnerable seniors from exploitation. I also became close with Gloria, who had shown such courage in coming forward. She works with the foundation now, helping to train caregivers to recognize signs of elder abuse. Her guilt has transformed into purpose, just as my grief has transformed into advocacy. Every year on the anniversary of Carolyn's death, I visit her grave with fresh flowers. I tell her about the people we've helped, the lives we've changed. I tell her that her death, as senseless and cruel as it was, has led to something good. And sometimes, when the wind rustles through the trees above her headstone, I swear I can hear her voice saying what she always said when I was worried or afraid. "Everything will be all right, Dorothy. The truth always comes out in the end." She was right. The truth did come out. It took a mysterious text message, a brave housekeeper, and a determined sister who refused to accept easy answers. But justice was served. If you are watching this, and you suspect that someone in your life is being exploited or harmed by family members, please do not ignore it. Trust your instincts. Ask questions. Pay attention to the warning signs. And if something feels wrong, it probably is. My sister cannot be brought back, but others can still be saved. Did you like my story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story.